Hey guys, it's Danny. Welcome to this month's Orchids in Bloom episode. Today, unlike last month where we had a two-parter due to all of the Phalaenopsis being in bloom, today we're gonna have a much easier time. I'm gonna keep it short and sweet, just show you a few orchids that I did manage to catch in bloom, because some I just did not film. And when I say short, don't imagine very short. I'm speaking in terms of me. I'm not running a TikTok channel. This is quite a long format type of a channel. Anyway, I do have quite a few really nice orchids to show you and hopefully maybe inspire you to put on your wish list. So before we start, don't forget to give this video a like if you end up enjoying it and you do enjoy all of the series. It really helps it out. Why not subscribe? I post multiple times a week and it's completely free. But if you're feeling a little extra and you can and you wish to further support the channel, do consider becoming a member and getting access to some exclusive videos. Also, you can use the affiliate links that you can find down below in the description on all of my videos. Also, do check out the merch. We have a brand new orchid puzzle. This is volume 1 and I'm really happy about it. I really enjoyed making it, so check it out. And also, you can use the super thanks option below my videos. Alrighty then, so with that said, let us start with this month's orchids. First off, we have Encyclia Black Comet, which I'm sure it's a Prosticea or a hybrid of sorts. This is one of the darkest orchids that I currently own. I have quite a few, and as many of you know, dark, let alone black orchids are really rare. They're so beautiful and I am trying my best to find really dark orchids to add to my collection, but it's not easy finding orchids that also do well in my environment. However, this particular hybrid does well because it is a Cattleya type, let's call it like that. It's not a pure Cattleya, but definitely it can be hybridized with Cattleyas and definitely takes the exact same care as any other Cattleya. This particular orchid has a bit of a fragrance. I find it to be a little bit like jasmine-y, a little earthy to be honest to my nose, but I don't dislike it. I think it's quite nice. A moderate fragrance, I would say, not very strong, not very mild. And I think it is a sequential bloomer because I do constantly see buds up top and you can see some of the flowers already fell. Anyway, I've been wanting this orchid for a long time and I'm super happy to finally have it. Next up, another Cattleya type. This is my pride and joy. This is Brassavola David Sander, or actually it might be a Rhynchovola now because it is a cross between a Brassavola and a Rhyncholelia. Now I've had this orchid for quite a while. She was set back, or I managed to set it back at some point, and she's been sulking for a number of years. This year though, she's looking very good. She has a lot of energy and she gave me one beautiful flower that smells absolutely gorgeous in the nighttime. It does have a Brassavola-ish type of a scent, a little bit soapy, I would say, a little bit. Again, I would guess jasmine-y. Jasmine is a very diverse type of plant, so you can find sweet-smelling jasmine or earthy-smelling jasmine. Sometimes not so nice smelling jasmine, you know what I'm saying? So it's the same with these nighttime fragrant orchids. They have kind of the same type of scent, but it differs a little bit in between the individuals. It's not a one-to-one to other Brassavolas, but it does smell quite delightful and I really enjoy it. Definitely a more finicky Brassavola hybrid, but I do believe worth having if you have some experience with Cattleyas and Brassavolas and they do good in your environment. Next up, surprise, surprise! Surprise, surprise! It's the Neofinetia falcata variety Nishidemiyako, which finally decided to bloom after a number of years in my collection. Side note, I don't typically do all that well with Neofinetias from the standpoint of blooming. Vegetatively, we don't really have much issues because they do enjoy growing in the warm season, but when it comes to blooming, I've had a few issues. So from now on, I am going to try and keep them brighter and also cooler. I'm gonna leave them outside during winter to fend for themselves, and I will not worry if temperatures go a little low because it never goes to freezing levels here. So theoretically, I shouldn't have anything to worry about. So I don't know how I rebloomed this orchid this year. It is a bit of a fluke to be honest, but I'm hoping to replicate it next year with a much cooler winter. I think that's what did the trick this year. I have made some economy on electricity, so I did not use the AC at night all that much and the temperature in the grow space went very low. And yeah, it worked out. Next up, another Cattleya type. This is Toung Star big tongue, something like that. I don't have the label in front of me, but you should have it written on the bottom of the screen. This is yet another Brassavola hybrid, but this one, as you can see, looks very different than the David Sander. It is also a much easier to maintain orchid. It's more like a typical Cattleya. It really isn't so finicky and has a much faster growth. Being that it is a Brassavola hybrid, we have that beautiful purpley spotted lip, which in time gets a little bit discolored. And this is the flower, I would say, towards the ending of its life. It's been in bloom for the past 3 weeks or so. When it first opens, the lip is a lot more pink, purple, but as time passes, you can see it gets paler and paler. I like both of the looks. This one looks like it's painted, or it's an antique of sorts. It is also fragrant, but it's not fragrant in the nighttime. It smells kind of sweet in the daytime, and that's because of the purpurata parent. I think the purpurata is its parentage. So this one doesn't take much after the Brassavola, but more after the Cattleya parent. It is a joy to grow. It is quite tall, not very bushy, but quite a tall orchid, so you need a bit of space for this particular orchid. Next up, let's look at some Phalaenopsis. I do enjoy these Phalaenopsis. This is one of my flower shop finds, actually, from the fragrant orchid movement that's happening in the EU now. Here we have Phalaenopsis. I forget the name. It's a commercial name anyway. You'll have it on the screen. It is a fairly new orchid, so I'm not very used to the name just yet. It has continued to open flower after flower since last month, and it smells absolutely delicious. I do believe it is a Bellina hybrid, which makes it smell rather fruity and delicious. I'm not entirely sure if it has any Violacea in its parentage, although the color would suggest it does. Fragrance-wise, though, it takes more after the Bellina, which is a good sign, or it's good news, because in my opinion, Bellinas smell better. They're easier to like as well. I feel like people prefer fresher, more juicy fragrances rather than sweet fragrances. Sweetness can be overwhelming sometimes, and I can see how some people can't really stand very sweet smells, scents, but this one is very fresh and very delicious, I would say, very fruity and nice. So definitely something to look out for in flower shops. The trend is continuing, I see, and I hope this autumn, this year, we'll have even more fragrant hybrids. Next up, another Polychilus type, which the other Phalaenopsis was as well. Shocking to see it in flower shops, a Polychilus, oh my gosh. Anyway, so this is the Phalaenopsis Lyndon mix zebra, something of sorts. I have this one for quite a couple of years now. It's not a flower shop find. It has really nice looking flowers. It is a little bit fragrant as well, more of a sweeter, fruitier fragrance. It's not sickly. It's not like an Oncidium Cherry Baby or anything. All of these Polychilus types or summer bloomers, they do have, generally speaking, a pleasant scent, minus the Amboinensis, but that's an exception. Everything that has even Violacea, but especially Bellina in its parentage, they do tend to smell really delicious, really fruity and nice and fresh. Very nice to detect the fragrance of this orchid in the summertime. We've talked about this one quite a lot. You'll find in the description a tutorial for Polychilus type Phalaenopsis. They differ a little bit in blooming and slightly, mildly in care as well from the Phalaenopsis that you typically find in flower shops, the ones that create cascades of flowers. So check it down below if you're new to these orchids. And if you ever see the Lyndon mix, I highly recommend it. It is beautiful, really easygoing, and it can bloom multiple times a year if you keep it warm. Next up, look at that. Look what we have here. Could it be? Yes, it is a Zygopetalum, and this is Louisendorf. I swear, Louisendorf has many faces. I am not entirely sure if this is a true Louisendorf or... But you know what? It doesn't matter. It is a common, let's say, Zygopetalum that I received from one of my lovely viewers, and it is in bloom now for the second time. I missed filming the first time it bloomed. And look at this guy. He is ginormous, and the flower spikes become pendant under their own weight. The party trick is the fragrance. You guys, I have been looking for this Zygopetalum for a million years. There are some zygos that smell like hyacinths, and those are not the ones I'm looking for. I'm looking for the ones that smell like lilies, and this is one of them. This one smells so beautiful. Now, funny thing, this Zygopetalum is grown in soil like I used to before I switched to moss, and it does very well. I didn't repot it just yet, but I think I will keep it in a soil-like mixture because it does very well, and I definitely need to straighten it because the entire plant is tipping over now under the weight of the flowers. Luckily though, the new growth is just growing, and if you're wondering if I have a care tutorial for Zygos, I don't, because I'm not the expert on them, to be fully honest, and yeah, I think there are better tutorials on the internet than what I can provide. This one is a so-and-so type of orchid for me, but I really enjoy it, and sometimes I do get it right with Zygos as well. Next up, let's look at some Tolumnias because they are some of my favorites. Here we have the Snow Carmine, which decided now to put out the longest flower spike it ever created. You know what? I'm a little afraid of these overly flowering type of Tolumnias. This one has been in bloom a few months ago as well. When it blooms, it sits in bloom for a while, like a few months, and I did notice after a period of blooms after blooms, and especially when they create these very long flower spikes with a lot of flowers, my Tolumnias tend to get a little bit depleted and dehydrated, and it's easy if I don't pay attention, it's easy to actually desiccate the roots. And I find, for me, in this environment, which is warm and dry, as many of you know, for me they tend to have desiccated roots pretty fast. They need to have more moisture than dryness in my environment. So it's easy after this type of very exhausting blooming, it's easy for me to have some desiccated roots, and I lose all the roots pretty much. So what I do now is I don't let them stay in bloom like this for long. I've had my fill with this orchid. I'm gonna cut the flower spike as beautiful as it is. You know what? I'm gonna experiment with cutting these flower spikes sooner, just letting the orchid breathe a little bit, because she has been in bloom almost constantly for the past half a year, the Snow Carmine, and it's enough. I'm a little afraid. It's a hybrid, let's not forget, and I personally don't trust hybrids. They sometimes can lose some natural instincts, quote unquote, let's put it like that. So I don't trust it, and from now on I'm gonna make sure that I don't let these orchids overbloom themselves, because I don't know, for me it happened twice, and that's suspicious. Did it ever happen to you to have some issues after a heavy bloom with a Tolumnia? Let me know. And speaking about another rebloom, this is the Pink Lady. We had her in bloom again a few months ago, but it doesn't seem to be so prolific, let's say, as the Snow Carmine. The Snow Carmine has always been very prolific for me, but it always stayed compact. This time it didn't, so that's why it's scary. However, the Pink Lady is a newer Tolumnia orchid. She seems to not be so prolific, so that's good. I'm okay with having blooms twice a year from this orchid, that's fine. And I don't think the current flower spike is a very draining source. So I will let her be in bloom. It just opened. And if you were wondering if these orchids are fragrant, none of my Tolumnia hybrids are fragrant. There could be some on the market that are, but I didn't catch one, sadly, but they are truly a joy, and they're impressive because the orchids themselves are kind of tiny, and the flowers, like the whole inflorescence, can be bigger than the entire orchid. And that's scary when you think about the health of the orchid. Having an inflorescence bigger than the entire orchid, that's scary. So I would issue a word of caution when it comes to overblooming Tolumnias. Just keep an eye on them, make sure they're watered. If you see those leaves starting to shrivel excessively, even if you water them, just remove the flower spike. That's what I'm gonna do. And lastly, here we have a Maxillaria. This is a hybrid of the Tenafolia. It's called Memoria Ben Berliner. It is a hybrid between the Tenafolia and Variabilis, and I have to tell you guys, it smells exactly like my Tenafolia. Not coconuts. I don't detect coconuts on these orchids. It's something else, but you know what? Most of you will probably detect the beautiful scent of coconuts. For me, it's like peaches or something like that. It's a fruit. It's a very delicious fragrance. I adore it. I adore fruit scents, but it's not coconut for me. Anyway, it is just as easy to grow as a Maxillaria tenafolia. It is the first year that I have it. Actually, I just completed a full year. This is the first time it blooms, and I'm hoping to do better next year with it. But the flowers really are just a Maxillaria tenafolia under different colors, a beautiful goldeny yellow color, and I really like it. It is a pretty big orchid, just like the Tenafolia. I would add maybe a little bit bigger. The leaves are just slightly wider, and it has the same pattern of growth. The pseudobulbs grow on top of each other, and it's just like a Maxillaria Tenafolia, really in all regards, except for these flowers and some minor details. But it is a joy to grow, loves the heat in my environment and the sun. And if you want a tutorial, you'll find a tutorial in the description for the Maxillaria Tenafolia, and I think you should do great with this one as well. And that is about it this month. Thank you guys so much for watching. Hope you've enjoyed hanging out with me and seeing all of these orchids. Let me know which one was your favorite this month, because I might put it in a puzzle, in a future puzzle, or maybe on a mug, or maybe on a t-shirt. I don't know. I'm trying to dedicate a little bit more time to the merch, which for 5 years I didn't really dedicate much to, to be fully honest, did I? Anyway, so you'll find links in the description and the pinned comment to my merch store, and don't forget to let me know which one was your favorite. And with that said, thank you so much, and I hope you have a great day. I'll see you next time. Bye!